What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers. We have UFC Vegas 59. We have Jamahal Hill going against Thiago Santos. A 12-fight card should be a very fun one. Looking forward to it. As always, I am here with everyone's favorite uncle. We have Uncle Weezy. Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to UFC Vegas 59 here?
Yeah, it's not a bad card. There's interesting fights on this one. A couple of these lines are already blown out, so there's not much we can do about betting the favorites in a couple of these fights. But there's always time props to discuss, and we've got a whole bunch of stats to comb through here that can give you guys an early look on which way you might be leaning on all 12 of these fights on the UFC Vegas 59 card. Got a hell of a main event. Really looking forward to seeing Jamahal Hill get back in there against Thiago Santos. A couple of unknown Ultimate Fighter winners will be crowned this weekend. It's going to be an interesting card from top to bottom. Let's dig into these stats and see if we can find a way to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for this event.
Yes, sir. And if you are a fan of women's MMA, you are going to love this card. 1/3 of the card is some women's MMA. We got fights like Cory Mckenna, Miranda Granger. We have Edgar and Mara Bueno Silva. We have the tough fighters as well. And then we have, of course, Catch a Beating making her return. Can't wait for that fight. But we have a lot to talk about. Before we get started, I do want to shout out the chat here. We have the first one in the chat is Propaholic. What is up, Propaholic? How you doing? Headley one in the chat. We have Carter. We have Tony. We have Cole. We have Sean. Andy G. We have Don in the chat as well. We got Wizbets. What is up, Wizbets? Tim as well. Prince of Mischief. Mushroom hanging out with us. Big checks only. Macio, Justin Valagas. We have Daniel as well. Appreciate all of you guys. Andy G. Chris. We have another Chris. What is up? We got Kiwi, Cole Stein, Andrew G. Goots. Eric Coate. What is up, Eric? How you doing? And we have a couple donos as well. We have Tony saying, kudos on the weight loss, Brady. Appreciate you, Tony. You need to share your tips with Jake Collier so he can get matched up with Kyle instead of Chris Stock. Because I don't know. I mean, Jake Collier has been doing a lot better than a lot of people expected. Who's Jake Collier fighting next time, Weezy? He's fighting.
It's going to be the Weight Watchers ad. It's going to be him against Huggy Bear. What's his name? Barnett. Chris Barnett.
Yeah. Hopefully that fight's soon. Is it soon or is it after?
Dude, it's coming up. You know what? It's the perfect date. It's September 10th. It's the exact date that you would expect to see Fat Collier fighting Fat Barnett. You know, and what Brady has done by losing 100 pounds is he's done what we call the reverse Collier.
Yes.
As Collier moved from middleweight up to having to cut weight to get down to 266, and Brady's done the exact opposite of that. So congratulations, brother. That is just a ridiculous accomplishment, losing 100 pounds.
Yeah, the reverse Collier. Gotta love it, man. Poor Jake, man. We got Wizbets in the chat saying, as always, your hard work is much appreciated, gentlemen. Appreciate you, Wizbets. And then he's also saying, save your breath. Alvey fight ends in disappointment. And as always, especially if you're a Sam Alvey fan, I mean, you've been disappointed the last 4 or 5 years. So appreciate you, Wizbets, for the donos. Does mean a ton. See if we missed anything in here. We got Tom hanging out, Jake as well, Nigel Lee. All right, Weezy. So I guess we will start with a quick recap of last night. I will let you kick it off. I know you had a pretty good night for the most part. I know Dontel Mays ruined 99% of people's nights last night, but go ahead and talk about your night a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, it wound up being an up night, but it was one of those nights where it was like what might have been. My greasy four-legger was Orion Kosi money line, Negamirianu money line. Fight doesn't go to decision for Smith Ankalaev. And then the fourth leg was fight starts round 2 for Lewis Pavlovich, which in retrospect was just a moronic bet, you know, and I didn't cash out. I had the chance to cash out. I didn't do it. And, you know, and I know how dangerous both of those guys are. I was just kind of hoping Lewis hypnotized Pavlovich, and they didn't even throw a punch for like a minute. I was like, this is exactly what I need. And then as soon as they engaged, somebody got their head snapped back. And, you know, it might have been an early stoppage, but at the same time, man, the way that dude Pavlovich hits, it's the referee's responsibility to protect these fighters. And, yeah, when he pulled him off, I thought it was a good stoppage. But then when I saw Lewis stand up, I was like, oh, maybe it wasn't a good stoppage. But either way, bad bet by me. Ass shaving of the week was Dontel Mays over Abdel Wahab. That's, you know, fucking embarrassing when I miss out on those picks. And It was an embarrassing performance by Don'Tale Mayes. He let him off the hook in the second. He busted the dude's orbital. Hamdi was making faces, covering up, and Mayes put together like a 4 or 5 punch combination, and then he fucking walked away. He fucking walked away when Hatley was just like, Hatley was leaning in. He was ready to stop the fight. All Mayes had to do was stay active, and he just didn't do it. And then he waits. I mean, he was lucky that Hatley stood them up with 45 seconds left in the third round, because it allowed Mayes to get back to his feet and actually try to finish the fight there in the last 30 seconds. And he even landed some big shots there, but that was if I'm Don'Tale Mayes, I'm fucking bummed out today, man. That's a fight he absolutely should have won, and he didn't show killer instinct when he needed to show it. And so that was really disappointing, because I cashed on a bunch of other bets, man. I had the over 1.5 for Kosi Blood Diamond, which was a beautiful bet. I had the fight doesn't go to decision for Ankalaev versus Smith. That worked out beautifully. When I saw the line on Drew Dober came from minus 250 all the way down to minus 160, I bet that for 1.6 units, and he made it look pretty easy there. Not only that, I had Pantoja by submission for a quarter unit at plus 420, so I cashed that. Wound up 2.5 units, but just really disappointed in my ass shaving of the week pick in Mayes. Really disappointed in Mayes' performance, and really disappointed that I didn't cash out of my greasy 4-leg parlay. And then I had fight starts round 2 for Lewis Pavlovich. In retrospect, that was just terrible by me. But hey, man, it's a winning week, but we're right back to work right now on Stat Diggers. How did it go for you last night, man?
Yeah, very slight winning week for me as well, which I'll take it, but I'm with you. It could have been a much bigger night if we'll talk about it. But this comment, Justin saying it was embarrassing to me because I invited all my family from all around the United States and hosted a Mayes watch party and thought I could introduce them into MMA by watching a Mayes fight. Justin, that is horrible. Sorry about that. Hopefully they were able to watch some other fights, because that last night's card was really good. I enjoyed it. Like, I barely have a voice because I was out at the bar last night screaming and yelling at the ref to stop one of the fights. I had a Pavlovich knockout, and yeah, I think it was a pretty questionable stoppage. But you're in the moment, and Derek Lewis falls face first. I mean, I get why the ref stopped it there, but had a half unit on Pavlovich to win by knockout plus 130. I had Dober Alves fight doesn't go the distance, 1.7 units minus 170. That was a little bit sweaty. I thought it was probably going to end up going the distance, but Dober, man, landed a nice body shot. Really happy with this bet. I had a Pantoja scorecards equals no action, minus 160, 1.6 units. I thought if there was going to be a finish, it was Pantoja, and my goodness, Pantoja came out there like a bat out of hell, got right in Perez's face, which was smart. Like, we haven't seen Perez in a while. Put it on him, took his back, and submitted him. So great performance by Pantoja. Hopefully he gets back in there very soon. I had Jakar close to win in either round 3 or decision, minus 120, 1.2 units on it. Had a half a unit on the Ankalaev Smith fight, doesn't go the distance, plus 100. I had a quarter unit on the Negamariano Pateria fight ending in KO at plus 100. I only had a quarter unit on it because I really didn't want to bet much on that fight, but man, Negamariano looked like a completely different fighter in there. That was awesome to see. So those were all the wins. A lot of wins there, a couple losses. Ryan Kosi, Blood Diamond fight doesn't go the distance. Only had a unit on it, minus 185. I was not going to bet this fight until I saw that minus 185. Kosi wins his first decision. It is what it is. Had a full unit on Mayes winning inside the distance, plus 130 and plus 150. Half unit on both of those. And yeah, I needed a shower after that fight. Felt terrible about it. And I did break one of my rules, fading a bad fighter with a bad fighter. And it definitely did bite me there. And then the last bet I had was Nunez Pena. Fight doesn't go the distance, minus 225. Was not going to bet this fight as well. They open up the fight, doesn't go at like minus 300. Came down to minus 225. I got baited in, and I laid it there and paid for it. It was only right that Nunez knocked down Pena 3 times, setting a knockdown record and completely destroying her without getting a finish there. But yeah, slight winning night. But win is better than a loss there. So looking forward to this card. No action yet, Weezy. I know you have 2 bets that I'm sure you'll talk about. And then, yeah, like you said, lots of really blown out lines already. So curious to see where these lines move throughout the week. And then on top of that, we do not have any props yet. I'm going to be refreshing to see if we get some during the show. Hopefully we do. But yeah, guys, before we get started, leave a like, subscribe to here to Pub Sports Radio. We go live every Sunday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, breaking down the card from a stats perspective. And yeah, hopefully it's a good card here. So we're going to go over here to the first fight of the night. We have Mara Bueno Silva, Stephanie Egger. We have Silva, 30 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. Stephanie Egger, 33 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. We have Silva, 3 years younger, and then Egger is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Mara Bueno Silva is 2-2-1 draw in her last 5 fights. The decision loss against Marina Moroz, a submission win against Mara Merla, a draw against Montana De La Rosa, a decision loss against Manafioro, and then a decision win against Yanan Wu. As far as Stephanie Egger, she made her debut against Tracy Cortez, lost by decision, knocked out Shanny Young, and then got that submission win as a big dog against Jessica Rose Clark her last time out. So, yeah, we have basically a striker versus grappler here, and Silva is a black belt, and she's a very good grappler. It's just she does not choose to use her grappling ever. She's attempted 1 takedown. She's gotten 0 of them, and it's weird. She has 3 or 4 submission wins in the UFC. I know she had one in the Contender Series. She submitted Jillian Robertson, and she did submit Mar Barella, so 3 submission wins. So, but she's not actively trying to get the fight down to the mat ever, which in this matchup, that's something you're really going to like to see, because on the feet, it's going to be Mara Bueno Silva all day. Really like her striking. She comes forward, a ton of power, but Stephanie Egger is going to try to get this down to the mat, and if she does, her ground game is very good, but as is Bueno Silva. So I think it's a very interesting matchup to start off the card, Weezy. Let's look into the stats on this one.
Yeah, I mean, the measurables, I kind of got it even, because Bueno Silva's 3 years younger, but Egger's bigger, having that 2-inch reach advantage. They're both the same height. They're both orthodox fighters. But Myra Bueno Silva's got the experience advantage. She's got 2 more professional fights, 19 more minutes in the pro cage, 6 more months as a pro fighter. Silva also has the UFC experience advantage with 4 more fights at the UFC level and 42 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, got to give the advantage to Egger in the finish stats. Egger has the better finish rate in their pro fights. It's 86% finish rate here for Egger, and it's a 75% finish rate for Myra Bueno Silva. And we'll notice that Egger there, with that 86% finish rate, it's equal opportunity. She's got just as many submissions as knockouts. As we see, Myra Bueno Silva actually has a lot more submissions than she has knockouts. Neither fighter has ever been finished in 2 pro losses, so they're both pretty durable here. And we've seen that in Bueno Silva's fights, especially that she's a dog in there. She's not going to quit. So the striking definitely got to give the advantage to Silva. Even though Silva doesn't have eye-catching metrics, she's clearly the better technical striker with way more power. Egger comes from a judo background. She lands less than 2 significant strikes per minute, spends over 73% of her fights in control time positions. So while this fight is on the feet, Silva's going to be the more comfortable and more dangerous striker for sure. And in grappling, you got to give the advantage to Egger. Stephanie is a higher level grappler with the better pedigree. An under 23 judo champ in Europe, Egger has some great throws, trips, sweeps, and reaps. And she does great work with the ground and pound when she's on top. And she will be the far more likely fighter here to go for takedowns. Egger has attempted 12 takedowns in 3 UFC fights, while Silva has only attempted 1 in 7 fights. Egger has a 26.5% control time for, while Silva has less than 5% of control time in her 7 fights. So Egger should be the more likely party to initiate the grappling exchanges and win minutes there. Egger should be able to avoid the submission attempts of Silva with her grappling pedigree. Neither fighter has ever been submitted as a pro. When it comes to the strength of schedule, I'm giving the slight advantage to Egger here on the metrics. Egger has the better ratio overall while having the better wins in both ratio and total fights. As we can see, Bueno Silva, she's beating ladies with a losing UFC record with 2.5 wins and 2.75 losses. So just a little bit more experienced competition than Stephanie Egger. So yeah, better in the ratio there, right there with the total fights. And then overall, it's 1.8 ratio for Egger, a 1.35 ratio for Bueno Silva. And even though Bueno Silva has been fighting the slightly more experienced competition. So, to wrap it up, Brady, Egger has a 2-inch reach advantage. She's got the finish stats, grappling, and maybe a slight strength of schedule advantage, while Silva's 3 years younger. She's got the experience advantage and the striking advantage in this fight. So it really is going to be a striker versus grappler matchup. If Bueno Silva keeps this fight standing, she should easily win. Once it goes to the grappling, you got to believe that it'll be Egger initiating the takedown attempts, trying to get the fight into the clinch where she could do her best work getting takedowns. Any judo player is going to have a much easier time getting takedowns when their hips are close to their opponent. So that's where Egger's going to want to be here. She's going to want to kind of try to take this into the clinch. And I think that Bueno Silva will let her do that because she walks forward so much. So, yeah, this is a very interesting stylistic matchup. I'd be interested to hear which way you're leaning on it.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaning on the Bueno Silva side, but this is a close fight, and the line definitely does indicate that. I just don't think that Bueno Silva is going to give Egger the fight that she wants. Bueno Silva, like we mentioned, although she does have a lot of submissions, she is very, very dangerous on the mat. Like, it's not easy to submit Jillian Robertson. She's not going to go out there clinching with Stephanie Egger. She's going to try to stay at range and just pick her apart. But yeah, if this fight does get in the clinch, Egger's definitely good with those throws and those trips. And if she does get on top, Bueno Silva is content to throw up submissions off her back and can lose minutes that way. So yeah, it's a close fight. I don't know if I'll be pulling the trigger on this one way or another, but we do see that Bueno Silva opened up -130. She's currently -110. Stephanie Egger opened up +110, and she is currently -110. So yeah, a straight pick 'em here. And like I said, I don't know if I am going to be betting this fight. It might just stay away from this one. Any thoughts on the line? And yeah, we don't have odds yet on these fight goes or fight doesn't go, but I'd kind of lean it towards it going to decision. Egger's never been submitted. Silva's never been submitted. I kind of leaning towards a decision here.
Yeah, it's funny though. Egger 2 wins, Silva 4 at the UFC level, and 5 of those 6 combined wins have been inside the distance, but neither of these ladies has ever been finished. It just kind of depends on whether you think Egger will be able to win enough minutes in the grappling exchanges to get a decision here, or if she's going to be able to get a submission of her own. I kind of see Silva with her 70% takedown defense, being enough to win enough minutes on the feet to maybe edge out a decision here. But it's a very close fight, and I can't blame people for going either way because, Egger's got a nice little grappling advantage here, and Silva's got a nice little striking advantage.
Yeah, what's kind of interesting to me about the line is we saw Jessica Rose Clark was like a pretty big favorite against Egger. She's like -170, -180. And I feel like this is a tougher matchup for Egger than Jessica Rose Clark was, because at least with Silva, she does have super good grappling, whereas Jessica Rose Clark, she had been submitted prior. So, sorry, I had to block somebody there. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But as of now, it is a pick 'em, Weezy. We can move on to the next fight. Oh, boy. Oh, no. Cory Mckenna, she's back. Well-awaited return here, going against Miranda Granger. We have Cory Mckenna, 23 years old, 5'3" with a 58-inch reach. Miranda Granger is 30 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. Cory Mckenna, 7 years younger. Miranda Granger has a 4-inch height advantage and a 10-inch reach advantage here. Cory Mckenna, 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She won on the Contender Series against Vanessa Demopoulos, beat Kay Hansen in her debut, and then lost a decision to one Elise Reed. As far as Granger, 3-2 in her last 5 fights. She made her debut against Hannah Goldie, won by decision, lost by submission against Amanda Lemos. And by the way, I went back and watched that fight today. Apparently, Granger was like -200 against Amanda Lemos, which I thought was pretty funny. And then she lost a decision against Ashley Yoder here. So, yeah, it's simple as this. I think Cory Mckenna has all the tools to win here in this fight. I think she can take down Miranda Granger, who thus far has a 40% takedown defense. Cory Mckenna, her wrestling is really good. I like what I see. It's just she doesn't go to her wrestling as much as you'd like to see, and not only in the Reed fight, but even in past fights. She just does not go to the wrestling as much as you'd like to see, and that's a problem. When she is on top, her top control is very good. Her submission game overall is very good. But, I don't know if I can trust her to go out there and take down Granger. Because on the feet, I like Granger striking, especially with that 10-inch reach advantage. I do favor Granger there. It's just, will Cory Mckenna come in here with a good game plan or not? And we'll talk about the line, but Cory Mckenna is a really big favorite here, and I just don't feel comfortable about that. Miranda Granger is coming off of a really long layoff. I think it's 1 year and 8 months. She is coming off a pregnancy as well. I went on her Instagram. She was like training while pregnant. I thought that was pretty cool there. But yep, it's a long long wait here for Granger, 1 year, 8 months against Cory Mckenna, who is young, 23 years old. She is training with really good fighters. She should be improving. But the fight IQ in the last fight with Elise Reed just causes me to just stay away here, Weezy. So curious to hear your thoughts on this one. Who you liking?
Yeah, so, big measurables advantage here for Granger. Even though McKenna is 7 years younger, 23 to Granger's 30, Miranda has a 4-inch height advantage and a 10-inch reach advantage. They're both orthodox fighters. And when it comes to the experience, it's even. Granger has 1 more pro fight, 6 more months as a pro, but McKenna has over 35 more minutes in the pro cage and 12 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, the finish stats advantage goes to Granger. The durability advantage goes to McKenna. Granger has the better finish rate as a pro. It's 85% for Granger to 50% for McKenna. And neither fighter has been finished at the UFC, has finished a win at the UFC level. Granger has been finished in one of 2 pro losses, and it was by submission. McKenna has never been finished, so I'd say McKenna has the durability advantage. In the striking, I'm giving the advantage to Granger. Neither lady is much of a striker. McKenna got pieced up by Elise Reed, but it was Granger who has by far the better metrics at the UFC level. Granger's more accurate. She's got a 48.5% accuracy compared to 42% for McKenna. She's got a better significant strike differential, positive 0.27 for Granger, negative 0.07 for McKenna. She's better defensively by far, 60% striking defense to 46% for Cory Mckenna. Add to that fact that Miranda has that 10-inch reach advantage, and this should be Granger all day on the feet. In addition to that, Brady, Granger's really good in the clinch, and I think that that's going to be a big-time problem in this fight for Cory Mckenna because, you're getting pieced up by Elise Reed. Elise Reed is a pure striker. That's okay. That's not too bad, but Elise Reed barely had a reach advantage, in that fight. And Elise Reed uses kicks too. And she, Granger's got a 10-inch reach advantage here, and she's going to be much bigger in the clinch there. And you see, she does really good work in the clinch. So I think the clinch striking is a big part of how this fight's going to play out. In the grappling, I got to give the advantage to McKenna. Grappling is both ladies' strong suit, though. However, according to the UFC metrics, it should be McKenna who's the superior minute winner in the grappling exchanges. She's 44% on her 9 takedown attempts, and she outcontrols her opponents in control time positions 40% to 13%. McKenna has also shown 71% takedown defense on 7 attempts against, while Granger only has that 40% takedown defense on 5 attempts against. So if one of these 2 fighters has the advantage in terms of who can choose whether this fight takes place in the striking or grappling realm, it's probably McKenna. The strength of schedule advantage leans Granger here. Granger has fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio and more experienced competition at the UFC level. In summary, McKenna's the pro and UFC cage time advantage, the durability advantage, and the grappling advantage here, while Granger has a huge measurables advantage, 1 more pro fight, a few more months in the game, and she has the finish stats, striking, and strength of schedule advantages. So, there's things to like about both fighters here. But, Brady, this line to me, it pisses me off. I don't even know how to explain what I see, like the rage that I start to fly into when I see minus 237 in front of Cory McKenna's name.
Yeah. It's terrible.
Look, I'm angry. I lost money on this girl last time out. I bet her at minus 200 in a fight against Elise Reed. A fight where, Reed was probably going to have the striking advantage, but McKenna's going to have this giant advantage on the ground, giant advantage in the wrestling, in the submission grappling, and in the ability to be able to push that pace, that grappling heavy pace, because Reed's more of a pure striker. So she had big advantages in that fight. Now, she should be the one that's more likely to initiate grappling exchanges here. But Miranda Granger's grappling in comparison to Elise Reed's, it's night and day. Miranda Granger's size in comparison to Elise Reed, night and day. Reach advantage, night and day. experience level of these two ladies. You compare Elise Reed's experience to Miranda Granger's experience in the strength of schedule. It's Granger. Why the fuck is Cory McKenna a minus 237 favorite? Who is betting Cory McKenna there? She's fucking, and if she's still at fucking Team Alpha Male with that level of coaching over there, you cannot bet her there. I had to bet Miranda Granger. I took her at plus 202. I bet 1 unit on it. I see that maybe McKenna wins this fight 5-6 times out of 10. But where the fuck is she this much better than Miranda Granger to warrant this line, especially after the piss poor fight IQ and game plan and coaching that she came out in that last fight with? She used to be over there with Shaky Shore in the UK, a real coach, a good fucking coach. Look at his son. Look at how good Jack Shore is, right? And when Cory was over there in Cage Warriors, she was using that grappling, Brady. And then she comes out here with this horseshit game plan. Her coach is giving her striking advice instead of threatening her life if she didn't shoot a takedown in the first 5 seconds of round 2. I know I'm angry, but if you are betting Cory McKenna at minus 237, you suck.
Nick Rodriguez is betting McKenna, Weezy.
God damn it, Nick. God damn it, Nick.
Weezy.
Why, after that rant, did you have to put that there, man? Come on, man. Dude, I know she should be better. I know she should be the one to be able to win the minutes in the grappling if she initiates it. But how can you count on her to do it? Sam Hughes just drowned, Elise Reed because she had the willingness to go and do it, knowing that she had the advantage there. And Sam Hughes isn't even as good of a grappler as Cory McKenna. So you can't look. Size matters in women's MMA, but fight IQ is so goddamn important. If you're laying minus 237 on a fighter that makes dumb decisions in there, you're going to have a bad long-term time trying to make money in betting this sport.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I will not be betting this fight, but I will also say that this line is ridiculous. Should Cory McKenna win? Absolutely. If she comes in there with the right game plan, but you do want to trust her at minus 237? Absolutely not. So this is a clear-cut pass for me. Weezy took the shot on the dog there, and I don't blame you. There's just no excuse for McKenna being minus 237. It's nuts.
It's absolutely nuts. This is a different matchup. I know why she was a 200 favorite, against Reed. She had a gigantic grappling advantage there. That's just not the case with this fight. We haven't seen Miranda in a while. She's coming off a pregnancy. Her last loss was to Ashley Yoder. I understand all those things, but look, there's a lot of holes in Cory McKenna's game right now, and she's still young. She's going to get better, but I don't even know how big her ceiling is due to the fact that she's really, really small for this weight class and not particularly athletic or powerful either. So I don't know what her ceiling is. She should be getting better, but if she's with the wrong coaches, that's going to take too long to happen.
Yep, sounds good to me. I will be sitting back, watching this fight, seeing how it plays out, and we'll see if Cory McKenna comes in here with a better game plan than last time. If she doesn't, she's probably going to lose.
And I'm going to spend a half an hour roasting her next week on Stat Diggers, Brady.
As you should, as we have been doing the last several months. Every week it seems like Cory McKenna gets brought up. It's crazy, but move on to the next fight. We have Jason Witt going against Josh Quillan. We have Jason Witt, 35 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. Josh Quillan, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach. Quillan is 6 years younger. He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Tail of tape in favor of Josh Quillan there. Jason Witt is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Takashi Sato, lost that fight by knockout, beat Cole Williams by submission. He lost to Matthew Semelsberger by knockout. He beat Brian Barberena by decision, and then he lost against Phil Rowe by knockout there. Josh Quillan, undefeated, obviously. He did have a win on the Contender Series, and that got overturned to a no contest, but he did go out there and knock out Logan Urban in the very first round. So yeah, I can't wait to see Josh Coulon. This guy is a very fun and exciting fighter. 100% finish rate for Josh Coulon as well. And I went to his Instagram. It says on there that he is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, for what it's worth there. But yeah, I like him all around. I think he's very physically strong. He hits like a truck, obviously. He showed that off in his Contender Series fight. Seems very well-rounded. His takedown defense looks good. I've seen him reverse guys on the mat. His ground game looks good. I've seen him get submissions, and I've seen him go later into the fight and have success. I think he has, two finishes in that third round. So it's nice to see that he's not going out there and just either finishing guys in the first round or going out there and falling off a cliff. His cardio seems to carry late into the fight. Jason Witt, I mean, we know the story with this guy, probably pound for pound, one of the worst chins in the UFC, up there with guys like Malcolm Gordon. Jason Witt's been finished in all of his losses, which is like 8 losses, 6 coming by knockout. This guy's chin is just terrible. And on top of that, his conditioning is terrible as well. We saw in the Phil Rowe fight, he went out there, he won the first round pretty easily. In the second round, he seemed to slow down. And as soon as Rowe landed one big shot, went down. So I think this is a super tough matchup for Jason Witt here. I know he has the experience. I know he may have the tools to have success in this fight, but the conditioning is extremely scary here on Witt. The chin is extremely scary here on Witt, and I think Josh Coulon eventually, whether it's early, whether it's late, whether Witt does slow down, I think Coulon eventually does knock this guy out. So I do like Coulon quite a bit. I know he's a Contender Series guy, and I liked him a lot up until I looked at the line. So people seem to be all over it, but there's no way I'm taking Witt here. I can't trust his conditioning or his chin, which are two very important things to have at this level. So give me Coulon here. I think he knocks Witt out at some point. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, so, I mean, you got to give that measurables advantage to Quinlan here, as he's 6 years younger, 2 inches taller, and has a 2-inch reach advantage. Both these guys are orthodox fighters. The experience advantage, obviously, that goes to Witt with 21 more pro fights, 170 more minutes in the pro cage, 6 more years as a pro fighter. Excuse me. And Jason has been more active as well over his pro career in comparison to Quinlan. Jason also has a UFC experience advantage. He's got 4 more fights at the UFC level, 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. But, in the finish stats and the durability, both of those go to Quinlan, as he's got a 100% finish rate in 5 pro wins, 3 knockouts, 2 submissions, while Witt has a 58% finish rate in 19 pro wins, and most of those are coming by knockout. Jason finished one of his 2 UFC wins, and Quinlan finished his opponent by knockout quickly on DWCS, but that was overturned to a no contest. I believe Quinlan tested positive for drostalazone or something like that. He tested positive for some kind of a steroid. I don't know if it was a tainted supplement. Don't know if he was cheating intentionally. I have no clue. Yeah, it was overturned at no contest, so we don't really know what happened there. Witt has been knocked out in all 3 of his UFC losses, and he's been finishing all 8 of his pro losses. So you have to give Quinlan the durability advantage. In striking, it's Quinlan. I mean, Quinlan has vicious stand-up, Brady. He throws really hard low leg kicks over and over and over again. He's got really tight boxing, throws with power hooks in the pocket. Witt's not going to want to stand in front of this kid. Witt's metrics aren't terrible in the stand-up. He has a negative 0.37 significant strike differential, throws about 0.5 less significant strike attempts per minute in comparison to his opponent. The real problem for Witt is the 50% striking defense, combined with the fact he's absorbing a knockdown on 3.75% of the significant strikes that he's absorbing. Witt's been knocked down 3 times in 5 UFC fights, and he's been knocked out as many times as at this level. So Quinlan's going to just be far more dangerous while this is on the feet. But in the grappling, it's advantage Witt. Witt's done a fantastic job thus far of winning minutes in his wrestling and the top control. Witt has a 56% control time for and is only allowing 3.34% control time against. That's almost a 17-to-1 ratio on control time to control time against. Witt's gotten 14 of his 29 UFC takedown attempts, and he's averaging 6.89 takedowns per 15 minutes and just under 1 submission attempt per 15 minutes. Quinlan is very dangerous on the feet, and I've seen him get taken down in the regional scene, but he always quickly reverses position and has great top control and ground and pound in his own right. Witt's going to need to use his wrestling to win minutes and accumulate top control while delivering ground and pound to have a chance to win this fight. And we know he has that capability. He's also got the strength of schedule advantage with 21 more pro fights. So obviously he's fought, beaten, and lost to the far superior competition in comparison to Quinlan. But yeah, it's Quinlan who's got the measurables, the finish stats, the durability, and the striking advantages, while Witt's got the experience advantage, the strength of schedule advantage, and he's got that grappling advantage. So in his 2 wins with Jason Witt, he got 338 seconds of control time against Brian Barberena out of 900. So that's, like almost 40% control time for in that fight. And that was on 8 of 18 takedown attempts. And he got 379 seconds of control time against Cole Williams in a 429-second fight. And that was on 2 of 3 takedown attempts. And even in the Rowe fight, which he lost, he still managed to out-control Rowe 311 seconds to 1 second in a 435-second fight. So it's just about how often Witt's going to be able to get these takedowns and hold this dude down. If he's able to do it for more than 50% of the fight, he's going to look a lot better than plus 200 here. I'll tell you that. But every second that this fight is on the feet, Jason Witt is going to be in a shitload of trouble because this dude Quinlan throws with really bad intentions, and he'll chew up your leg first and then remove you from your consciousness later on in the fight. But yeah, he throws with serious power here. So if you're on that Witt side, you're going to have your butt cheeks clenched for the entirety of this fight as long as Witt's, standing in front of this guy. I think you're muted, brother.
Oh, and I was going to say, if you're on the Witt side, you got to make sure the air conditioning in the apex is off because that breeze could definitely get Witt out of there. I'm worried about the cut man potentially knocking Witt out, rubbing the Vaseline on him as well. I mean, his chin's just so bad. And like you said, Jason Witt could absolutely look much better than plus 190 here up until he gets caught is kind of my problem here. So, yeah, Quinlan is a pretty big favorite. Open up minus 200, currently minus 225. Jason Witt open up plus 170, currently plus 190. I was hoping for a better line on Quinlan. I really like him here, but minus 225 doesn't really make a ton of sense to me. I do think Witt is going to have success early on. Maybe I look at it from a live betting standpoint. But also Quinlan could knock him out in the first round. So I might just look at Quinlan inside the distance. Hopefully you get a good price on that. Witt's been finishing all his losses, and Quinlan has a 100% finish rate. But yeah, definitely a wide line on here. And for a guy that is coming off of his suspension, a guy that is making his debut. But I really do think he knocks out Jason Witt here.
Yeah, and check it out. You got a guy with Witt who's got 19 pro wins, 58% of them inside the distance. So that means I believe 11 out of 19 wins or finishes. But that also means he's got 8 wins by decision. Josh Quinlan, 0 wins by decision. In addition to that, Jason Witt gets finished in all his losses, and Quinlan's never lost, so we don't know if he's very durable. But, potentially a sneaky way to look at this that should be plus money, Brady, is that the decision only prop on Jason Witt. Because if this fight does go the full 15 minutes, in my opinion, there's a very high probability that that means Jason Witt won a ton of minutes on the ground and might have done enough minute winning on the ground with his wrestling top control and ground and pound to win a decision. So I think that's a good way, especially if you're on that Quinlan side, to hedge, because he could lose minutes to a very good grappler, a good wrestler who's really been masterful at winning minutes with his wrestling. So Witt decision only is a good look for this one.
Absolutely. I don't really see Quinlan winning minutes. If he's going to win this fight, I see him winning moments, and a big moment there. So we'll keep moving on to the next fight. We have Bryan Battle going against Takashi Sato. Bryan Battle, 27 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. Sato, 32 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. Battle's 5 years younger. Battle's going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage as well. So yeah, tail to tape massively in favor of Battle here. We have a Battle that is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Gilbert Urbina, winning that fight by second round submission. After that, did win a decision against Tresean Gore. Sato, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win over Ben Saunders, a submission loss to Bilal Mohammed, a knockout win against Jason Witt, a submission loss to Miguel Baeza, and then a decision loss to Gunnar Nelson his last time out. And yeah, this is like most fights on this card. Like I really like Battle here. And you take a look at the line, you're like, do you really want to lay this price on Bryan Battle? We'll talk about it. But yeah, I like Battle a lot of aspects of his game here. You know, like I said, he's going to have the tail of the tape advantage here. He's very active on the feet. He throws a ton of volume compared to Takashi Sato, who's not really throwing a lot. I will give Sato the power advantage here, but Bryan Battle can absolutely take a shot, and he's going to have to take a shot if he has a 40% strike and defense. So I guess that's the one part of his game that I really don't like. He is willing to take a shot. He can eat the shot, but, you know, very, very hittable is Bryan Battle. But you know, he's very well-rounded, you know, multiple submissions on his record. He did submit Andre Petroski on The Ultimate Fighter, which was awesome. He did submit Gilbert Urbina as well, and a couple other submissions on his record outside the UFC. So very well-rounded, and that is something that Takashi Sato struggles with throughout his career. He has, I think, 5 losses, 4 of them coming by submission. Gunnar Nelson, which a lot of people, including me, expected Nelson to submit him. He almost did a couple times, but I feel like if this fight does hit the mat, Battle will be very live for a submission. But even on the feet, I do favor Battle. I like the forward pressure. I like the volume. I feel like Sato's really going to fall behind. And outside of a knockout shot from Takashi Sato, I think it's a really good fight for Battle here to win. So I like Battle. We'll talk about the line in a little bit, but outside of a knockout, I think Battle gets this one done.
Yeah, I mean, Battle's got that lovely measurables advantage as he's 5 years younger, 3 inches taller, 4-inch reach advantage. And let's not even forget, Brady, that Battle's only fought at middleweight. This fight's taking place at welterweight. So he's moving down for the first time in his career. So he's going to be the bigger dude here. That's not surprising. This will be his first attempt at making 170. So we're going to have to keep an eye out for how he looks on the scales. That's going to be very important here. And don't forget, Battle's a big favorite. So, you know, if you're thinking of betting Battle, you might want to wait to see how this guy looks on the scales first. It's a southpaw versus orthodox matchup, though. And Sato is the southpaw. So both fighters' power weapons will be open for business here. And let's know that we got to keep that in mind stylistically for this matchup because, like you said, when we talk about the striking advantage here, we're going to talk about Battle having the volume advantage. But, man, Sato's going to have that power advantage. And when you got a southpaw versus orthodox matchup, you really want to know who has that power advantage. The experience advantage here goes to Takashi Sato. He's got 12 more professional fights. He's got almost 100 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got almost 6 more years as a pro fighter. Takashi also has the UFC experience advantage with 3 more fights and over 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. The slight edge goes to Sato for the finish stats and durability. Both guys are great finishers as pros. Battle has a 71% finish rate and 7 pro wins, mostly by submission. And Sato has an 86% finish rate in 15 pro wins, mostly by knockout. Sato's finished both of his UFC wins by knockout, and Battle finished one of his 2 UFC wins by inside the distance by submission. Sato's been finished in 4 out of 5 pro losses and in 2 of 3 UFC losses, and Battle's been finished in his only pro loss. So neither of these guys is a picture of durability thus far. Could be a good fight, doesn't go to decision bet, as we see 5 of these guys' 6 combined losses have been inside the distance. And like I mentioned, it's southpaw versus orthodox, and Sato throws that straight light left with a lot of power. The striking advantage goes to Battle, in my opinion. This is going to be volume versus power. Sato is the low-volume power striker, while Battle is the minute-winning volume guy. Battle has a 2.52 significant strike differential, while Sato's is negative 1.88. Battle throws 4.89 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents do, and Sato throws 1.59 less. So it's pretty clear that Battle should be winning minutes in the stand-up by keeping distance with his kicks and out-voluming Sato. And Sato will be most likely be relying on landing a big straight left down the pipe. The grappling advantage, I'm going with Battle here. Sato hasn't grappled much at the UFC level, only attempting 2 takedowns in 5 UFC fights. Sato's been out-controlled by his opponents 28% to 2.6%. Battle has attempted as many takedowns as his opponents have. He's gotten 2 less, but he's still managed to outcontrol his opponents 21% to 18%. So he's got decent efficiency in the grappling. Both of these guys don't have great takedown defense. So whichever guy goes to the wrestling first here has a chance to win minutes there, as both guys are allowing more than 2 takedowns for 15 minutes. It's Battle, who has 9 takedown attempts, though, in only 2 fights, while Sato only has 2 takedown attempts in 5 fights. So I have to think Battle has the better skills to win minutes in the grappling exchanges here. The strength of schedule is Sato. It's not even close. Sato has fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio and more experienced competition. In summary, Battle has the measurables advantages when it comes to size and the striking, and the grappling advantages as to how they relate to their UFC fights. But Sato is the southpaw, and he has the experience, finish stats, and strength of schedule advantages. But, the way I see this one, it just kind of comes down to, it looks like Sato needs to land a big shot, and that's his chance here. So, Takashi Sato by KO, and if that doesn't happen, it's either going to be Battle by knockout, Battle by submission, or Battle by decision, because he just looks to have way more ways to win minutes in the striking, and he seems to be the more willing wrestler. And it's not like Sato's been stopping takedowns at a good percentage or doing a good job of getting back up. So, got to believe that Bryan Battle wins this fight, but this line just might be a little wide here.
Yeah, and like I was saying, I do like Battle quite a bit, but the line's kind of scaring me away. And yeah, I do think Sato to win this fight is relying on that knockout shot. Bryan Battle has never been knocked out. He was submitted in his only loss. But yeah, we do take a look at the line, and Battle opened up as a minus 200 favorite. That's kind of where I'd line it. Around minus 200 seems fair. But yeah, now minus 230, minus 245 on a book, and really not much you could do there. I mean, maybe potential parlay piece for Bryan Battle, but I don't know if I'll have a parlay on this card. But yeah, I like Battle here. Sato's plus 195. I think, Sato knockout or bust here. So yeah, give me Battle, but just don't know if I'll touch that minus 230, minus 245 there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where these, fight doesn't go lines open up, because this could be a sneaky little spot for a fight doesn't go, because Sato does have great power, and Battle's got really sneaky submissions. You don't really think of the guy as a submission guy, but yeah, 57% of those 7 wins by submission. So he can hurt you on the feet and then finish you on the ground. And Sato's given up a lot of submissions. So some interesting angles on this fight, but can we just get a shame for Bet Online not having any props out at this point, and 5 Dimes supposedly not having anything out so far? It's shocking on a Sunday night. They know when Stat Diggers is. We're always here and ready. Why aren't the sports books, Brady?
Yeah, exactly. No, nothing from 5 Dimes yet. Nothing from Bet Online. One big shame, and I'm surprised we didn't shame Dontel Mays. He deserves a shame as well. So.
Yeah, shame on Dontel Mays for letting him off the hook. Shame. Dontel. Shame. You let us all down. You let me down. Everybody who followed the ass shaving of the week pick, you let them down. And I refuse to take blame for this, Brady. This is everybody's fault but mine.
Exactly. I agree. I agree. So big shame for Dontel Mays, big shame for 5 Dimes, big shame for Bet Online, and a big shame for Cory Mckenna as well. All right, we can move on to the next fight. We have a banger here, Weezy. We got Terence Mckinney going against Eric Gonzalez. Mckinney, 27 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. Eric Gonzalez, 30 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach here. Mckinney, 3 years younger. Gonzalez with a 1-inch height and reach advantage. Mckinney is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Matt Frivola. And I was taping this fight, and I saw that Mckinney and Frivola fought each other, and I forgot about the fight. And then I watched it. It was only like 7 seconds, and I remembered, and maybe that's why I forgot. It was so short. But yeah, Mckinney starched Matt Frivola in 7 seconds or less, and then went out there and submitted Farazayam, and then lost by knockout against one Drew Dober. As far as Eric Gonzalez, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He lost by knockout to Jim Miller, which is not the best look in the world, but Jim Miller has been looking phenomenal as of late, which is awesome to see. But yeah, this is a fight where, like most fights on this card, I like McKinney, obviously, but he's like minus 1,000, and I just feel like Terence Mckinney shouldn't be minus 1,000 against anybody. Should he go out there and starch Eric Gonzalez in the first round? Yeah, he probably should. I think McKinney's better everywhere Mckenny has a wrestling background. His ground game is very underrated. I think the submission is absolutely on the table. Gonzalez has been submitted twice in his career. I've seen Gonzalez taken down literally 1,000,000 times. Like, I went and watched the Hoffa Garcia fight, and I swear, like, Garcia got like 40 takedowns in that fight. So Mckenny should have no problem taking this fight down to the mat, potentially getting a submission, even on the feet. Like, Eric Gonzalez is somebody that eats one to give one, and you don't want to eat one against Terence Mckinney. But I guess the problem with this fight is, one, Mckenny's minus 1,000. Two, if this fight does get out of the first round, like, it's going to get super interesting. We saw Terence Mckinney against Sean Woodson kind of fall off a cliff after that first round, slow down and get finished. And another thing that concerns me about Mckenny is I think he has 4 losses. All 4 of them come inside the distance. He's been submitted a couple times. He's been knocked out a couple times. And Eric Gonzalez, for what it's worth, he is a tough dude. Yes, he got knocked out by Jim Miller, but that was his very first knockout loss. So, yes, I like Mckenny. Can you parlay Mckenny at minus 1,000? Absolutely not. They're probably going to line the fight doesn't go at like minus 800 Weezy, because there's no way this fight is going the distance. Terence Mckinney's never been over 2.5. He's been to the third round once. That third round got finished in the first minute of that third round. I think Mckenny does roll here and wins in the very first round, but this is probably going to be an unbettable fight by the looks of it early on.
Yeah, unbettable, yes, Brady. Unwatchable, certainly not. Absolutely. This fight's going to be so good, man. The measurables are even. McKinney's almost 3 years younger, and he's a switch stance fighter, while Gonzalez is slightly bigger, 1 inch height, 1 inch reach advantage. The overall experience advantage goes to Gonzalez. The UFC experience advantage goes to McKinney, as Eric's got 4 more pro fights and almost 130 more minutes in the UFC cage. In the pro cage, and he's been a pro fighter for almost 3 more years. McKinney has 3 more fights at the UFC level and 7 more minutes in the UFC cage. The interesting stats, as you can see under pro experience and UFC experience for Terence Mckinney, the average fight time in 16 professional fights, 100% of which have finished inside the distance, is 2.47 minutes. And he's been taking his time at the UFC level, slowing down his game, as his fights have been finishing in 3.1 minutes. So, this guy is the definition of a killer be killed fighter. Gonzalez has a 64% finish rate as a pro, almost all the finishes coming by way of knockout. Gonzalez has been finished in 3 of 6 pro losses, while McKinney has been finished in all 4 of his pro losses. So I have to give Gonzalez a durability advantage. Striking advantage goes to McKinney. Both of these guys have a ton of power, and they're both trying to kill their opponent. McKinney has shown that he can hang at the UFC level and drop his opponents, while Gonzalez got knocked out by Jim Miller in his debut. Both guys are absorbing almost 3 knockdowns per 15 minutes on the aggregate thus far in a very small sample size, but Terence Mckinney is landing 2.42 knockdowns per 15 minutes, while Gonzalez hasn't landed a knockdown yet. The grappling definitely is McKinney. McKinney's got 7 career wins by submission. He's a former state champion wrestler. He can and will use his wrestling to win minutes, and he's out-controlling his opponents at better than a 7-to-1 ratio, while Gonzalez was out-controlled almost 2-to-1 by Miller, and he gave up 36.6% control time in that fight. So in my opinion, McKinney has the clear grappling advantage in this fight. The strength of schedule, also McKinney, just because Terence has had 4 UFC fights to Gonzalez's 1. Both guys have fought solid regional scene competition. But McKinney's younger. He's a switch stance fighter. He has the UFC experience advantage, the finish stats advantage. I have him with the striking, grappling, and strength of schedule advantages as well. Gonzalez is slightly bigger, maybe a little more durable, but the Ghost Pepper is probably going to have a really, really rough night on Saturday because Terence Mckinney is just a fucking animal.
Absolutely, and the odds do indicate that he is indeed an animal. And I think, as we always say, hype does drive the line. There's a ton of hype on Terence Mckinney, and I think his stock even went up after that Dober fight, and rightfully so. Yeah, minus 1,000 here. He opened up minus 1. Oh, no, he didn't. He opened up minus 400, which that seems a little bit more reasonable. And then now he's minus 1,000. Eric Gonzalez opened up plus 300. He's now plus 600. So yeah, biggest favorite on the card, Terence Mckinney. I think he does win and probably does in the very first round.
Yeah. It's hopefully somebody screws up this under and puts it at 2.5 at minus 150, and I'll just put the whole fucking bank account on it. But yeah, it's probably going to open up super wide and be unbettable. And even if this fight, like I say, even if it's unbettable, it's going to be so much fun to watch. So that's something I've tried to keep in mind, Brady. And it was like, don't try to find a way to bet those really exciting fights when the lines are just pushed so far past where they even have any kind of value. Just enjoy the fight. And this is going to be an enjoyable fight. I'll still try to find bettable lines here. Terence Mckinney by first round submission could be very interesting. Terence Mckinney inside the distance. Obviously, fight doesn't go to decision, but we'll have to see where they're priced.
Yeah, I was shocked they had like the over under for the Zion fight was at 2.5. Under 2.5, I got it like -120. Same thing for the Frivola fight. That was 2.5. And even the Dober fight, I think, was 2.5. So this 100%, they're going to set it at 1.5. And it's probably going to be juiced to the under, honestly. But, how can you blame them? All right, we'll move on to the next fight. Here we have Mikhail Olazaych going against Sam Alvey. We have Sam Alvey, 36 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach. Mikhail Olazaych, he is 27 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. Olazaych, much younger by 9 years. And it's going to be Alvey with a 2-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage as well. Sam Alvey is 0-4-1 draw in his last 5 fights, a draw against Da Un Jung, a decision loss against Ryan Spann. Both those fights are really competitive. And then a submission loss to Juliana Marquez, a very competitive decision loss to Wellington Turman, and then a submission loss against Brendan Allen. Mikhail Olazaych, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a submission loss to Oven St. Preux, a submission loss to Jimmy Crute, a decision win against Modestas Bukauskas, a knockout win against Shamil Gamzatov, and a decision loss to Dustin Jacoby. So I guess the biggest thing to mention here is going to be, well, there's a couple big things here. The first one is this is going to be the first fight for Mikhail Olazaych at 185. And we always talk about Mikhail Olazaych being super small for the light heavyweight division. So it's really good to see him coming down here at 185 and really curious to see how he does perform at this weight class, which should be his normal weight class because, again, he's really small for the light heavyweight division. He did make his MMA debut at 185, but this will be his second fight ever at 185 here, which is something to mention. But yeah, another thing to mention is the fact that Sam Alvey has not won a fight in a very long time. The last time that Sam Alvey won a fight was back in June 1st, 2018 against Jean Vellante, and that was a split decision. And the win before that doesn't get any better. It was against Marcin Prachnio, the fight where he knocked Prachnio out like 3 times. So, yeah, it's been a rough stretch for Sam Alvey. Got finished by Nogueira in the second round, got finished by Crute, lost a decision to Abreu, lost a decision to Spann, Jung, submitted by Marquez, lost a decision to Turman, lost by submission against Brendan Allen. He's on a long skid here without a win. And I guess they're saying that this is Sam Alvey's last fight in the UFC, win or lose. So, and rightfully so. So we have another big favorite here, Mikhail Olazaych. If you do want to parlay Mikhail Olazaych with Terence Mckinney, it comes out to like -370. So just a big favorite here in Mikhail, which, as he should be. He should be a big favorite here. We know how Sam Alvey is going to fight. Mikhail, especially against Mikhail. Mikhail's going to come forward. He has really good combinations to the body, a ton of power. This guy's a very dangerous finisher. Sam Alvey is going to back up all the way to the back of the cage, and he's going to throw very, very low volume with some power, but still very low volume regardless. Mikhail should be the clear minute winner here. He should be very, more active. He should be more dangerous. I think Mikhail rolls here, but yeah, he's a huge favorite. A lot of people want to fade Sam Alvey, and how can you blame him? This guy has not won a fight in like 4 or so years. So easy. What do you think about this one here?
Yeah, unfortunately, the line is completely blown out. Let's go through the numbers here. The measurables are pretty much even. Alvey's the slightly bigger man. He's fought at both 205 and 185 as well. He's got a 2-inch height advantage, a 1-inch reach advantage. Olazaych, though, is 9 years younger, and he's making his debut at 185 in the UFC. It's a southpaw versus southpaw matchup, but it's interesting in that Olazaych is a natural southpaw. Alvey's just a righty, but because he's a counterpuncher, he puts that right hand forward and uses that power hand as the hand that's closer to his opponent's face, and he's looking for that big right hook counter that he's been landing, and he's got a lot of power in that right hand. So that's what he looks for. In experience, it's advantage Alvey. Obviously, Sam is a veteran of the sport, an OG, 30 more pro fights. almost 400 more minutes in the pro cage and a pro for 5.5 more years. He also has the UFC experience advantage with 15 more UFC fights and 165 more minutes in the UFC cage. Olazayk's got the finish stats advantage. Alvy's got the durability advantage. Michal has the better finish rates overall. It's 75% for Michal, 67% for Sam. And at the UFC level as well as Michal, 75% finish rate, Sam, 60% finish rate. Both guys are primarily knockout dependent. Alvy has been finished less, both at the UFC level. Alvy's only been finished 42% at the UFC level, while for Michal, it's 67%. And overall, as well as Alvy's been finished at 36%, but for Michal, it's 80%. So Alvy's got a chin on him, and he's never quit. So I absolutely believe he's the more durable fighter here. But the striking advantage has got to go to Olazaych at this point. He's got the better metrics at the UFC level with the better significant strike differential. Positive 0.47 for Michal, negative 0.27 for Alvy. He's got the better striking accuracy, 49.5% to 44.5%. Gets more knockdowns per 15 minutes, 1.21 to 0.46 for Alvy. Better striking defense, 64.5% for Michal, 53% for Alvy. And Alvy's been knocked down 5 times in 23 fights, and he's been knocked out 3 times at the UFC level, while Michal has never been knocked down or out at the UFC level. The grappling advantage I have to give to Alvy. Neither one of these guys offensively wrestles much or at all. However, Alvy, over a huge sample size, has shown 82% takedown defense and 14.3% control time allowed over a 230-minute sample size, over 67 takedown attempts. Michal has 47% takedown defense, and he's allowing 2.42 takedowns per 15 minutes and 0.73 submission attempts against per 15 minutes. So he's been way less defensively responsible in the grappling in comparison to Alvy. So even though neither one of these guys is likely to wrestle much, it's Alvy who's clearly the better grappler at being able to lose less minutes in the grappling in comparison to Olazaych. Strength of schedule, advantage Alvy. Salmon's got the bigger sample size of UFC fights, has the better overall ratio, and in his wins. Michal's losses are better on the aggregate, but the metrics definitely favor Alvy's wins, and that's more important. Alvy's bigger, he's more experienced, he's more durable, he's the far better defensive grappler, and he has the strength of schedule advantage. Olazaych is 9 years younger, he's the better finisher, and he has the striking advantage, and that's probably enough. But when you kind of look at the numbers and you see all those advantages for Alvy, you think to yourself, maybe he lands that big right hook, and at plus 430, he may not be a great minute winner. Plus 450 on Bet Online, but maybe you bet Sam Alvy by knockout, you get plus 600, plus 700, and it's worth a sprinkle because, Olazaych has been knocked out before as a pro, not at the UFC level, and Sam Alvy's still got a ton of power in that lead hand, and Olazaych is not going to really worry so much about being countered, which could play right into what Alvy wants. But yeah, am I running to the window to bet Sam Alvy anything at this point in his career? No, but this line, it's just discouraging to look at minus 700 for Olazaych on Bet Online because it just kind of makes him unbettable in any way.
Yeah, the line is completely blown out. Curious to see where he opened up at. Yeah, he opened up minus 330, which that makes more sense to me. And he's now minus 700. Sam Alvy opened up plus 270. He's currently plus 450. I will not be betting on this fight. I'm not tempted on the Sam Alvy side. I think Olazaych should absolutely win this one, but minus 700. You just can't do anything with that. Like I said, a parlay with Olazaych and Terence Mckinney is like minus 370. So, yeah, it's a clear pass for me. I'll sit back and watch this one, watch Sam Alvy's last fight, and I think he does rack up another loss here. Yeah, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He won a fight 9 fights ago, man, and he's still in the UFC. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been a rough run for Smiling Sam. And he's definitely coming to the end of his illustrious career of more than 50 pro fights. So, yeah, big ups to Sam Alvy. He's an OG. He's a veteran. And I hope he does well in his last UFC fight. But, yeah, Olazaych coming down, still a young man, the career trajectory going up. I'm really happy to see him go down to 185. I think he'll do well here. Yeah, and he'll probably cruise to a victory, but we'll see, man. It's the UFC, it's MMA. You just never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Nothing is a lock in MMA, that is for sure. So we'll move on to the next fight, and we have the people's main event. I've been waiting to talk about this one, Weezy. We have Ariana Lipsky, the queen of violence, going against Priscilla Ketcha, the zombie girl. I'm a huge fan of Priscilla. Love her fighting style and love watching her fights, love breaking them down, and I'm glad she is still in the UFC. Honestly, kind of shocked she's still in the UFC, and we'll talk about why, but how can she not be? How can they not keep her in here? She's just so exciting, and every fight she absolutely does bring it. But Priscilla, she is 33 years old. She's 5'7" with a 65-inch reach. Lipsky, 28 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. Lipsky, 5 years younger. Priscilla Ketcha 1 inch height advantage, and then Lipsky with a 2-inch reach advantage. Lipsky is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Decision win against Isabella de Padua, a submission win over Luana Carolina, a knockout loss to Antonina Shevchenko, a knockout loss to Montana De La Rosa, a decision win against Mandy Bum. As far as Priscilla Ketcha she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, a decision loss against Luana Carolina, a knockout win against Jana Dobskin, a knockout win against Gina Mazzani, a submission loss against Jillian Robertson, and a decision win against Jian Kim. Went back and watched that fight today. Very close fight. I did think Jian Kim clearly won it for the most part. I mean, Priscilla Ketcha did have some moments like late 3rd round that might have swayed the judges, but Kim was in control the majority of that fight. I think she outlanded Ketcha by like 70, 75 strikes, something like that. But you take a look at Lipsky and you see it right there. She got knocked out by Montana De La Rosa. She got knocked out by Antonina Shevchenko. Very bad looks. But those were TKO losses. Those were on the mat. And I just don't see Priscilla getting the fight down to the mat. Priscilla has attempted 3 takedowns. She's only gotten 1 of them. And, honestly, I went into to this fight thinking I might pick Priscilla Ketcha here. I might take a shot on her. I'm a big fan of her, but you go and watch the tape, and she is just probably the most hittable fighter in the UFC. You take a look at her striking numbers, and they're pitiful. A 45% striking defense. She's absorbing almost 8 significant strikes per minute. I mean, that's why they call her Ketcha. That's why they call her the zombie girl. She walks forward, no striking defense, and she just eats punches with her face for 15 minutes, coming forward, not going down. Ariana Lipsky, the queen of violence, she does hit very hard. She got 2 knockdowns in her last fight against Mandy Bum. I think it's going to be a fun fight, an exciting fight. I think Ketcha is going to come forward with her hands down the entire time. I think Lipsky's going to really hurt Ketcha. I don't know if she puts her out, but Lipsky should win this fight. Just the lack of striking defense from Priscilla just really discouraged me from even thinking about picking her here. So I like Lipsky to win. I will not be betting on Lipsky, but I do think Lipsky is the more defensively sound fighter, and I think that's going to account for a lot here. So the pick for me is Lipsky. Thought about picking Ketcha, but after looking at her striking defense, just there's no way. She's way too hittable for me. So Weezy, how do you feel about this fight? I know you are a big fan of Priscilla Ketcha as well.
Yeah. I mean, and for any Ketcha fight, you got to bet the point deduction because she cheats. I mean, she's just such a cheater. Fence grabs, eye pokes. She'll like pants her opponent. I mean, like anything to get an advantage. Wedgies, like she'll smash her cup into her opponent's face. Foreign objects, fake casts, like she'll come out limping, like she's the kind of woman who parks in handicap spots, yes. I mean, like anything to get an edge is what Ketcha is going to do. But you like the measurables advantage here for Lipsky. She's 5 years younger, got a 2-inch reach advantage. She's also got 6 more professional fights and almost like about 85 more minutes in the pro cage. So, that was, that's good enough. A couple more years as a pro. They've both got 7 UFC fights, 10 more minutes in the UFC cage for Lipsky. The finish stats are pretty close here. They've each been finished in 50% of their UFC losses. Ketcha got 2 finishes and 3 wins, while Lipsky, or wait, is that right? That can't be right. I thought she had 2 decision wins. Ketcha. Did she? Oh, she knocked out Mazzani. Oh, she knocked out Dobson. My bad. Okay. Yeah. But I remember the decision against Jian Kim. So, yeah, this is, it's going to be interesting because Lipsky's like the better Muay Thai striker here. She's cleaner. She's got a lot of power. And, she's just more technically sound. Priscilla Cachoeira just walks forward with her right hand up by her chin, and she doesn't even really throw a left. She just throws that right, and she'll take 4 punches to land 1. And sometimes she can do that because she relies on her chin so much, and she really is just trying to land the bigger shots, and she will continue walking forward. It's an exhausting pace that she puts on, and it's an exhausting style to fight against. But if Lipsky uses good footwork and is circling here, doesn't let Priscilla just march her down, she should absolutely be able to piece her up from the outside. Neither one of these ladies really wrestles much. Lipsky 1 takedown in 7 fights. Cachoeira 1 takedown in 7 fights. But Lipsky does get a lot of control time. She has 22.5% control time for her. So Lipsky's somebody who will use that clinch striking in order to win minutes. And as a Muay Thai striker, she's got the ability to be able to do that. If you look at the strength of schedule here, Cachoeira has fought the more experienced, better win-loss ratio competition. But, the wins aren't great for Priscilla. And the wins aren't great really for Lipsky either. She's just kind of fighting the better win-loss ratio competition in comparison to Priscilla. But Priscilla, fought Valentina Shevchenko. She's also lost to, Luana Carolina, who has a winning record, Jillian Robertson, who has a winning record. But the wins against Dobson, Mizani, and Ji-Yeon Kim aren't exactly what you would call confidence-inspiring. So, yeah, it's kind of low level. It should be a fun fight that, really good striking match. Both ladies throwing power strikes. But, I've got to lean Lipsky. She's the much cleaner striker, and Cachoeira catches punches with her face. So, yeah, I think it's got to be Lipsky that gets the job done here.
Yeah, as a fan, I'll be rooting for Catch Cheating, but as a bettor, I would recommend probably not betting on this fight. I mean, we take a look at the line here. We have Ariana Lipsky opening up -180, currently -170. Priscilla Cheating opened up +155, currently +145. I think Lipsky wins, but you can't ever really count out someone like Cachoeira. She's going to come forward the entire time. They call her the zombie girl. She can eat a shot. She's going to land big shots herself. Don't want to completely count her out, but my goodness, her striking defense is some of the worst striking defense you'll ever see, and that's why we love her, right? So the pick for me is Lipsky. I will not be laying -170 on her, but going to be enjoying this fight, Weezy.
Yeah, it's going to be very enjoyable, and I think I'll enjoy it more if I have absolutely no money on it. But both of these ladies, decent finishers, and maybe fight doesn't go to decision. It'll be nice plus money, and it'll be worth a bet. But like I say, man, I think I'll sleep better with no money on this fight.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that because they actually are talking about bringing Mario Yamasaki back for this fight to ref it.
Oh God, yeah, he was the one that was in there with Valentina and Priscilla, and that was ugly.
Yeah, he wants to get in there again and redeem himself potentially.
Yikes.
All right, so that should be fun. We'll move on. We have a couple fights left. We have Augusto Sakai going against Sergey Spivak. We have Sakai, 31 years old, 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. Spivak, 27 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. We have Spivak 4 years younger, and then Spivak with a 1-inch reach advantage. Augusto Sakai is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Marcin Tybura, a decision win against Blagoy Ivanov, a knockout loss against Overeem, Rosenstruck, and Tai Tuivasa. Sakai is on a 3-fight skid and a 3-fight knockout loss skid here. Sergey Spivak is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Carlos Felipe, a knockout win against Jared Vandera, a decision win against Alexei Oleinik, a knockout loss to Tom Aspinall, and a knockout win against Greg Hardy. Spivak looked phenomenal in that Greg Hardy fight. So we have a striker here versus a wrestler, grappler, and Sergey Spivak. Spivak is going to want to get this down to the mat. On the feet, I do favor Augusto Sakai. I do like Sakai striking quite a bit. I like his volume. I like his power. Spivak, I think his striking is improving, but he's going to want to get this fight down to the mat. Sakai, nobody's really tried to test his takedown defense. We saw that Overeem got him down 3 times. Blagoy got him down once, and he was taken down once on the Contender Series. But outside of that, nobody's really been trying to take him down. I think Spivak is absolutely going to try to take him down. Spivak averaging over 3 takedowns per 15 minutes, a 60% takedown accuracy. And like we saw in the Hardy fight, in some other fight, Jared Vandera fight as well, the Tai Tuivasa fight, when Spivak does get on top, he is very dangerous. He has a couple submissions on his record, very good ground and pound. Yeah, I kind of like Sakai in this fight. I know I kind of like Spivak in this fight. I think Spivak gets this fight down to the mat, and when he does, I think he's going to have a nice advantage there. And I know for a fact that Spivak's not going to go in there with a bad game plan. He seems like a guy with very good fight IQ. I think he does take down Sakai and potentially even finish him on the mat there. So as long as Spivak fights smart, gets it down to the mat, I think it's a super winnable matchup. But like we've been talking about on this card, Weezy, a lot of wide lines, and Spivak is another guy where the line is definitely wide here.
It is. It's very wide. And we know what Sakai is good at. We know what Spivak's good at. This is a striker versus grappler matchup, very, very simply. But Spivak's the younger man. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage, so we like that fact for the measurables. In terms of experience, it's Sakai who's got 3 more pro fights and about 100 more minutes in the pro cage and about 3 more years as a pro. But at the UFC level, the experience level is very much the same amount of pro fights, about 15 more minutes in the pro cage or in the UFC cage for Sakai. Sakai gets all of his finishes by knockout. 73% of his 15 wins coming inside the distance by knockout. And Spivak's an equal opportunity finisher, as he's got 14 pro wins. 12 of them are by finish, 6 by knockout, 6 by submission. Sergey's been knocked out in 2 of his 3 pro losses, both of them at the UFC level. And Augusto Sakai has been knocked out in 3 of his 4 pro losses, and in all 3 of his UFC losses. So, yeah, 6 combined UFC losses for these 2 guys, and 5 of them are inside the distance. So this could be a very good violence spot here. And I like it as a violence spot because we've seen Sergey Spivak knocked down a couple of times, knocked out twice, and Sakai has the ability to do that. And then we've seen Sakai get abused on the ground and on the feet too, but he's been taken down 5 times on 14 attempts, and he's been controlled for just a little over 12% of the 84 minutes that he's been in the cage. So, yeah, if Spivak gets this fight to the ground, he's going to be very dangerous. And if it stays on the feet, Sakai is going to be very dangerous. But either way, I do like this fight to finish inside the distance. When it comes to the strength of schedule numbers, definitely edging Sakai here a little bit, as he's got the slightly better ratio and he's fighting much more experienced competition. But the wins are very similar here, as Spivak's got the better ratio, but Sakai's wins are coming against guys with more UFC fights. And then at the loss level, they're both losing to experienced competition, but Sakai's got the better losses. Yeah, definitely like Spivak's grappling. Like the strength of schedule advantage for Sakai, like the striking advantage for Sakai, a little bit of an experience advantage for Sakai, but Spivak's the more equal opportunity finisher here. He's going to be the better wrestler and grappler. And I think what's interesting about this fight is that Sakai's 8 fights, 84 minutes, have taken place in control time positions about 22% of the time. For Spivak, it's over 50% of the time. So which one of these guys gets their way? Because Spivak's already been good at getting his way. He's been good at making sure that fights are taking place in control time positions more than 1 out of 2 seconds, which means if that's the case in this fight, I don't think Sakai has enough time to land that big shot. So, yeah, I got to lean Spivak here. He's younger. He's the better grappler. He's an excellent wrestler and minute winner on the ground. And he won't be at a huge disadvantage on the feet, but Sakai's going to clearly be the better striker.
Absolutely. We see that Spivak opened up minus 200. He's now minus 210. Sakai opened up plus 170, and he's currently plus 180. I think people are very low on Sakai right now on that 3-fight losing streak. But, I mean, he is losing to really good guys like Overeem, Rosenstruck, Tai Tuivasa. Those are all really good fighters. So, yeah, I think on the feet, Sakai, on the mat, Spivak. I think the fight doesn't go could be interesting depending on the price. We'll talk about that tomorrow for probability, but I'm leaning violence as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot for violence. And yeah, and don't forget the archetype of fighter that beat Sakai the last 3 times around, Tuivasa, Rosenstruck, Overeem, all strikers, right? It was the Ivanov fight, who's a sambo guy, and Tybura, who's a grappler. He beat those guys. He knocked out Tybura. He won via split decision against Ivanov, and Ivanov's always in really close fights. But, you You see the guys that Spivak are winning against: Felipe, Vandera, Oleinik, Hardy. They're mostly grapplers. Oleinik, Vandera. Felipe's a decent striker. Hardy's inexperienced, and then Aspinall is obviously a stud, and he took that fight on short notice. So yeah, Spivak's getting better. Still only 27 years old, and really using that wrestling well. So I see why he's a minus 210 favorite here, but I think Sakai is going to be very dangerous, and he's a live underdog to land a big shot.
Yep, sounds good. We will move on. We have two Ultimate Fighter fights in a row here. We'll start with the first one. We have Brogan Walker going against Juliana Miller. We have Walker, who's 32 years old, 5'4" with a 67-inch reach. Miller, 26 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Miller, she is 6 years younger, and Miller is going to have a 3-inch height advantage. We'll take a look at Walker. She is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. She does have a loss by decision to Erin Blanchfield, a loss by decision to Pearl Gonzalez, and then did beat Miranda Maverick by decision a couple of years back. Juliana Miller is 2-1 in her last 5 or only 3 fights. Weezy, how do you feel about this one here?
Yeah, so the measurables advantage I have going to Miller here. Both of these ladies have the same reach, but it's Miller who's 6 years younger and 3 inches taller, and Walker's a southpaw. The experience advantage goes to Walker. Brogan has 6 more professional fights, over 90 more minutes in the pro cage, and 4.5 more years as a pro. I got to give Miller the finish stats and durability advantage here. Even though it's a much smaller sample size, Miller has a 100% finish rate in her 2 pro wins, both of them by submission. Walker has a 14% finish rate in 7 pro wins. Neither lady has ever been finished. Got to give the striking advantage to Walker here. Walker's got a Muay Thai base and is definitely the striker in this striker versus grappler matchup. Juliana is still young and inexperienced, and she relies on her grappling to win fights, while Brogan has good kicks and does a good job using kicks to maintain distance. She mostly lands her hands when her opponent lunges too far in. The grappling advantage I'm going to give to Miller. Grappling is definitely Miller's base. Her takedowns have mostly come from body lock trips. She advances position on the ground, finished Caitlin Neal by Kimura, and she's got 2 submission wins in her 3 fights prior to being in the house. Strength of schedule, though, is definitely Brogan Walker here. The 3 ladies Miller fought prior to being in the Tough House had a combined record of 2 wins and 5 losses. Walker has fought names like Erin Blanchfield, Pearl Gonzalez, Miranda Maverick. So Walker not only has the more experience, but she's fought the much better level of competition. She beat Hannah Guy and Laura Gallardo in the house, while Miller beat Claire Guthrie and Caitlin Neal. So Miller's got the measurables, finish stats, and grappling advantages here, while Walker has the experience, the striking, and the strength of schedule advantages. I think it comes down to Brogan Walker's experience here. Miller is still very new to this game. A 3-year pro career and only 3 pro fights in those 3 years, while in the 8 years that Brogan Walker's been fighting, she's got 9 professional fights. And Brogan Walker's just fought the more experienced, better brand of competition. She's not getting finished. I think what Juliana Miller's best attributes are that toughness. She's scrappy. She walks forward. There's no quit in her, and she's just a fighter by nature. But Brogan is going to have the much crisper, cleaner striking here. She's a lot more experienced and a lot more well-rounded. And I think that she can hurt Juliana Miller coming in here. And I think Juliana is going to have a really hard time getting this fight to the ground. And if it stays standing, I think Brogan Walker is going to be the much more likely lady to win minutes here. So I know Miller is the favorite here, but I'm going to be looking at a bet on Brogan Walker by decision. I think Brogy Bear is going to take this one.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised at the line here. People are really high on Juliana Miller. Maybe that might be why, but, you cannot ignore the well-roundedness of Walker, the experience, and who she's fought. But, yeah, Miller is a favorite. And she actually opened up as a dog. Miller opened up at plus 140. She's now minus 135. And Walker opened up minus 160, and she's now plus 115. So the line actually flipped, Weezy. The odds makers did set Walker at a favorite and then moved instantly to a dog there.
Yeah, Walker's more experienced. She's fought the better brand of competition. She's the better striker. She should have opened minus 160. I kind of feel like that's where the line should be. But when you go back and you watch those fights in the house, Juliana Miller is very likable. Just the way that she fights, I think, is the kind of lady that you want to bet on. This girl's gonna fucking scrap. She's gonna get in your face. She's gonna talk some shit. She believes in herself, and she's gonna make it dirty. So, it's going to be up to Brogan Walker to depend on that experience, depend on that ability to find, calmness in the cage and to be able to fight a game plan that's going to make your inexperienced one-dimensional opponent very uncomfortable. And I think that there's multiple ways for Brogan to do that. So I'm going to be picking Brogan Walker to win this one by decision. And I'll be looking for that, hopefully getting something like plus 200 or better on Brogy Bear by decision. But it is going to be a really fun scrap. Juliana Miller, super fun to watch, and you cannot sleep on her grappling. It's really good, and she's been in a lot of professional grappling competitions.
Absolutely. I'm curious to see where that line does move. So we have 3 fights left. We have the next fight. This is the heavyweight fight. Mohammed Usman going against Zach Pauga. Is it Pauga or Pauga? I've heard announcers pronounce it.
It's like P-O-W, Pauga.
Pauga.
Zach Pauga.
Zach Pauga versus Mohammed Usman. Usman is 33 years old, 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. Pauga is 34 years old, 6 foot with a 78-inch reach here. Pauga is going to be 1 year older. He's going to be at a 2-inch height disadvantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage there. Usman is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He did have a submission loss to Brandon Sales, had a decision win against Terrence Hodges, a knockout win against Reggie Cotto, a knockout win against Alexis Garcia, a decision win against Frank Tate, and he did fight Dontel Mays back in the day and lost that fight by decision. Zach Pauga, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, notable win there against Marcus Perez. And then all of his wins, all of his pro fights are at the light heavyweight division. So this will actually be his very first fight at heavyweight here. So yeah, went through, watched every single fight of both these guys' careers, and then watched all the fights on the Ultimate Fighter. And yeah, Pauga has a decent amateur career. I think he has like 5 or 6 fights and then the 5 fights pro. And I watched his career from start to up until the Ultimate Fighter, and you can just see a ton of improvements with Pauga, especially in his striking. Like early on in his career, in his first couple fights, he was a grinder. He was doing a lot of wrestling, and he had success. He has a ton of athleticism, but yeah, in his last couple of fights, especially on the Ultimate Fighter, you can really see his striking and how much he's grown in that striking. And when he's training with guys like Curtis Blaze, and he said he was doing work with Overeem as well, you're going to see a lot of improvements. And same thing with Usman. Like Usman has improved throughout his career as well, training with, great guys like his brother Kamaru Usman as well. So this should be a very fun fight, Weezy. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, so measurables, I got to give the advantage to Usman because Mohammed is 1 year younger. He's 2 inches taller, maybe. I think they might be the same height. And he has a 1-inch reach advantage. All of Pauga's fights pre-Tough House were at 205, and it looks like he could easily make 185, actually. So Usman's going to be the bigger, stronger dude with the natural frame for the heavyweight weight class. And Usman's got the experience advantage. He's got 4 more professional fights over 3 more years as a pro. What's weird is they actually both have exactly 62 and a half minutes in the cage. The Usman gets the advantage in finish stats, as Usman's the better finisher. He's stopped 5 of his 7 wins inside the distance, 3 by knockout, 2 by submission, while Pauga has 1 finish win in 5 wins. So Usman's been subbed in 1 of 2 pro losses, and Pauga has never lost. The striking advantage goes to Pauga. I think Pauga is the faster striker, and he throws decent volume, while Mohammed's stiff, but he also throws decent volume. He's got good conditioning, but he's mostly hands, and he does have heavyweight power. Pauga throws a more diverse attack, as he tends to mix in a lot more kicks than Usman does. Both guys are athletic, but I think Pauga's speed and movement make him the more likely minute winner in the stand-up exchanges, while Usman, who is stronger and the more natural heavyweight, should be the moment winner. And I've seen Pauga dropped on the regional scene at 205. So either of these guys landing a big shot is a possibility. It's a heavyweight fight. The grappling advantage, I'm giving it to Usman. I've seen Usman use his grappling more on the regional scene in comparison to Pauga. I've seen both guys get takedowns, and Pauga has good wrestling too. but I've seen Mohammed get almost 13 minutes of control time against a striker on the regional scene. So I think Usman will be the more willing wrestler here. The difference here is that Usman is the true heavyweight, the bigger, stronger man, and he brings really good conditioning to the table for a heavyweight. So I think Mohammed's going to be the more likely guy to use his wrestling and win minutes with it. That being said, we didn't see either guy in the house go to their wrestling at all. So this could mostly be a stand-up fight. And if that's the case, I think Pauga is going to be faster. I think he's going to throw more volume, and Mohammed's going to have to kind of maybe rely on landing that big shot. But the strength of schedule advantage goes to Pauga here. Usman's opponents had a combined record of 34 wins and 30 losses at the time he fought them. While for Pauga, it's 23 wins and 9 losses. Plus, Pauga had 5 amateur fights prior to going pro, while Usman had none. So, yeah, I mean, you got to give Usman the size advantage. Usman's got the experience advantage. Usman is the better finisher. And I think Usman's probably the better grappler here, but Pauga's going to be the better striker. Pauga had fought the better brand of regional scene competition here. It's just that I'm worried that Zach's not big enough for the division, and that could be a problem because Mohammed Usman's a very large man. And, I think he's got a few more ways to win this fight. I know he's the more experienced fighter. And I know that he's the bigger dude, the more natural frame for the weight class. So while I think Zach probably wins this fight more times than he loses it, I'm struggling with why this line is where it is.
Yeah, I mean, people are saying it in the chat. Somebody said that Mohammed Usman sucks, and I think that's a good way to put it. But yeah, Weezy, you brought up a lot of good points, right? Like, Pauga, he's very small, and like this is going to be his first actual professional fight at the heavyweight division. Of course, he did fight a heavyweight on The Ultimate Fighter, and he does look a lot different now compared to earlier in his career. And yeah, like you said, he probably could make middleweight if he wanted to, and that could be a problem against a guy that is huge in Mohammed Usman. I mean, Mohammed Usman is thick and he hits very, very hard. But yeah, I mean, the technique has gotten better throughout the years for Mohammed Usman. But when he's striking, he's just winging shots left and right, a lot of missing, and he lands with power. But Pauga should have the striking advantage here. He should be quicker. And I like what I see from Pauga's takedown defense. So I think he should be able to keep this on the feet and outstrike Usman for 3 rounds. But if there's a finish in this fight, you got to believe it's going to be on the Mohammed Usman side. Pauga's not a finisher. Even that light heavyweight, he wasn't going out there and finishing guys. I think he has 1 finish in his 5 professional fights. Like, that's not great. But yeah, I think if this does go to decision, it is probably Zach Pauga stuffing the takedowns, keeping it on the feet, and outpointing Mohammed Usman. But like you said, this is a steep price in a fight that could very well play out close and competitive. We have Pauga opening up -200, currently -235. Mohammed Usman opening up -200. Mohammed Usman opening up +170 and currently +200. Bootsy is on the Usman side. Maybe he likes Usman here, Weezy.
Yeah, and I do too, man. I bet 1 unit on Usman at +200. I think this is a very close fight, but Usman has got ways to win this fight. And don't forget, his brother's the heavyweight champion. You never know. If this is a close fight, they might be doing Usman the favor here. And, Pauga's a good prospect, but let's keep something in mind, right? This guy's been fighting as a pro for less than 2 years, and he's 34 years old. So which guy is the UFC going to be more invested in? The true heavyweight? Because Pauga is probably moving back down to 205 or maybe even 185 after this fight. The line just doesn't make sense to me. I think Mohammed's just got too many advantages to ignore here with the experience, with the grappling, with the conditioning, with the size. So I'm laying that. I'm taking that +200, and I'm thinking that either Granger or Usman gets the job done, and I come out ahead on 2 underdog bets, because these fights should be much closer to even, in my opinion, with how the line is set.
Sounds good. Yeah, I will not be betting on this fight, but I will be rooting for your bet, Wheezy. And I'm curious to see this fight as well. I know both guys, not too high on, and I don't really have, much. I don't think they're going to go too far. I mean, Zach Pauga, I kind of laughed when he said he's going to be the heavyweight champion. He said that. I don't think so, but I mean, we'll see what happens. Should be a fun fight, and including the next fight. This fight's going to be very fun, as is every Vicente Luque fight. We have Vicente Luque, Geoff Neal. What a great job by the matchmakers here to put this fight together. I think this is going to be an absolute banger. We have Luque, who is 30 years old, 5'11" with a 75-inch reach. Geoff Neal, 31 years old, 5'11" with a 75-inch reach. Is Geoff Neal there? I think I said that backwards, but they're both pretty close there. Luque is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Nico Price, a knockout win against Randy Brown, a submission win against Tyron Woodley, submission win against Michael Chiesa, and a decision loss to Bilal Mohammed. Geoff Neal, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Nico Price, knockout win. Mike Perry, knockout win. Stephen Thompson, decision loss. Magny, decision loss. And Ponzinibbio, a decision win. This is a good fight. Luque is the definition of a dog. He brings it 30 fights, never been knocked out. He is somebody that eats one to give one, which, is not the best thing in the world, but he has the chin to back it up. A very good chin. I think he's been knocked down maybe like once in his entire career. Geoff Neal has a ton of power that definitely does concern me. And I think if this does go to decision, I think it's going to be extremely competitive here. I think Geoff Neal is going to have a lot of big moments in this fight, but as is Luque here. So on paper, Weezy, this seems like a really close fight. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
It is, man. I mean, like the measurables are dead even. Both fighters are the same height, same reach. They're only a year apart. Neal's a southpaw and Luque is orthodox. So that's always a fun matchup because, both of these guys have got serious power weapons and they're going to be open for business. The experience advantage goes to Luque. Vicente has 12 more pro fights. He has over 120 more minutes in the pro cage and 3 more years as a pro. And Luque also has the UFC experience advantage with 9 more UFC level fights and 75 more minutes in the UFC cage. Finish stats advantage Luque. Luque is the better finish rate overall compared to Neal, and that's impressive because both of these guys are good finishers. But it's Luque who's finishing 90% of his 21 wins inside the distance. That's ridiculous. 71% finish rate for Geoff Neal. And also at the UFC level, Luque's finishing better. 93% finish rate in Luque's 14 UFC wins and a 71% finish rate in Geoff Neal's 7 wins. Luque's been subbed twice in 8 pro losses, but they were both pre-UFC, while Neal has been knocked out once and subbed once in 4 pro losses, and they were both pre-UFC as well. So these guys have 6 combined UFC losses. Neither one of them has been finished at the UFC level. The striking advantage, I'm going to give it to Luque here. He's got the better significant strike differential, positive 0.12 compared to negative 0.24. And he's got the better striking accuracy as well, 53% for Luque, 50% for Neal. And the power numbers are very similar, but they lean Neal. And Geoff's striking defense is much better, 62% for Geoff Neal, 53% for Vicente Luque. I'm going to give the grappling advantage to Geoff Neal. Neither one of these guys grapples much, but both have 1 takedown for every 3 fights they've been in at the UFC level, and both average right around 0.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. But it's Neal who does a much better job of not losing minutes on the ground. Luque is allowed 20% control time against on 19 takedowns allowed, while Geoff Neal has only allowed 4% control time against on 4 takedowns allowed. Neal's got an 86% takedown defense compared to a 61% takedown defense for Luque. So while neither guy wins a lot of control time positions, Neal does a way better job of not losing them. The strength of schedule is a slight advantage to Luque here. Luque has the better ratios overall and in wins and losses. While Neal has fought the slightly more experienced competition on the aggregate, Luque has the better wins in ratio and experience, so he gets the edge here. So if you see right here, a 1.95 ratio for Luque, a 1.65 ratio for Neal in the wins, and the total fights lean Luque here too. So yeah, Luque's got slightly better wins, and he's got the slightly better overall ratio in comparison to Neal. So Luque's got a lot of advantages, man. He's got the finish stats and durability advantage. He's got the striking advantage. He's got the strength of schedule advantage. But Geoff Neal, while he has that grappling advantage, I'm really not sure either one of these guys is going to win any minutes in the grappling exchanges. It's just that, in my opinion, Neal has more of a chance to not lose minutes there. Because if anybody gets uncomfortable on the feet, I just think it's Neal that's going to be the more likely one to be able to win minutes in the grappling. But I see why Luque is the favorite here. He's more experienced. He's got 9 more fights at the UFC level. He's been the better finisher. Dude's incredibly durable, down for a war. And Geoff Neal is too. But, it just feels like Luque is the better bet here. Belal Muhammad did a great job of winning minutes on the ground and keeping it close on the feet here. But I don't see Neal being able to win as many minutes on the ground. And if he can't do that, I think it's going to be Luque winning these exchanges on the feet. We'll just have to see, though.
Sounds good. And yeah, a bet that I did last week that worked out really well. Didn't expect it to work out that well, but the Pantoja scorecards equals no action last week against Alex Perez. The reason I liked that was I was banking on the durability of Pantoja. He'd never been knocked out. He'd never been submitted. Where on the flip side, we did see that Perez had been both knocked out and submitted before. So I got that. And this is another spot where I'm going to be looking at that as well. I'm going to bank on the durability of Vicente Luque. I don't see Neal submitting Vicente Luque. I think if Neal is to finish, it would be a knockout. And again, Luque in 30 professional fights has never been knocked out, and he's taken a ton of shots. Vicente Luque has eaten 877 shots and has not been knocked out yet. I don't think this is the time. So I'm going to be taking a look at the scorecards equals no action for Luque, see where that opens up at. But Luque opened up as a minus 175 favorite, currently minus 175. Geoff Neal opened up plus 150, and he is currently plus 150 there. So yeah, I'm looking at that scorecards equals no action. And that's about it here. Any thoughts on the money line? Any thoughts on anything else?
Feels like it's right where it should be here. I don't think we're going to see that line move a whole lot during the week. I feel like Luque's the rightful favorite here, but Geoff Neal getting, the respect he deserves here at plus 150 because he's a lefty with a ton of power, and if he lands big on you, I don't care how durable you are. If he hits you in the right spot, you're going to be on Dream Street, and it's going to be very difficult for you to stay in the fight. So great co-main event for this card.
Yep, can't wait for it. So we'll move on to the main event. Before we do so, if you guys have not already, please leave a like. Also subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. I do want to remind you guys that me and Weezy will be going live tomorrow night after the Die Hard MMA podcast for Propability. We had no props to talk about on the show, which sucks. A big shame to the bookies out there knocking the props out. They should know by now that we do this every Sunday. Exactly. A big, giant shame, Weezy. But you got to imagine they have them out by tomorrow night, right? So we'll talk about it, Propability tomorrow night on the MMA Engine. But we have the main event here. Thiago Santos going against Jamahal Hill. Thiago Santos, 38 years old, 6'2" with a 76-inch reach. Jamahal Hill, 31 years old, 6'4" with a 79-inch reach. Hill, 7 years younger. Hill, 2-inch height advantage, and Hill, a 3-inch reach advantage. Santos is 1-4 in his last 5 fights, had a decision loss against John Jones, submission loss against Glover Teixeira, decision loss to Rakic, decision win against Walker. I'm not even convinced he won that, honestly, and then a decision loss to Mohammed Ankalaev. So Jamahal Hill 4-1 in his last 5 fights, knockout win against Abreu, knockout win against OSP, knockout loss against Paul Craig, knockout win against Crute and Walker here. If you want to fall asleep, I recommend watching Santos's last 3 fights. They were just atrocious. Nothing going on. I remember sitting there for 25 minutes. It felt like an hour watching that Mohammed Ankalaev fight. Just a horrible performance. Shame on both of them. The Johnny Walker fight wasn't much better. That was terrible. The Rakic fight was horrible. If you want to go fall asleep, go watch a Santos fight. But I'm hoping Jamahal Hill comes in here and he makes this exciting because Jamahal Hill is a very fun and exciting fighter. He's going to come forward. He's going to throw a lot of volume, unlike an Ankalaev, unlike a Walker, unlike a Rakic. I do think Jamahal Hill makes this exciting, which, should be a good thing for Hill, but he's really going to have to watch out for that power of Santos. Although I do think Santos is towards the end of his career, he has looked horrible his last several fights. He still has a ton of power. He did knock down Ankalaev in his last fight. The power is still there. Hill is pretty hittable with a 45% striking defense, but Hill is a big favorite here, and I do see why. I'm not picking Thiago Santos to win a fight, especially against a guy in Hill who I am very high on, a guy in Hill who, I do have question marks about the takedown defense in the future, but this is a spot where I'm not going to have to worry about that. I don't see Santos going out here and taking this fight down to the mat. I think Hill should be the clear minute winner on the feet just by doing things. Santos is going to go out there and stare at Jamahal Hill, occasionally landing a big shot. And as long as Hill's able to avoid that big shot, I think Hill does win this fight more often than not. So I do like Hill. I like Hill to win, potentially by finish here as well. I just can't pick Thiago Santos at this point of his career.
Yeah, it's awfully hard, and I mean, it's hard to put into words how horrible those last 3 fights for Santos were. I think that's why Jamahal Hill is such a favorite, is that they know that Jamal's not going to be afraid of this guy like Ankalaev, Walker, and Rakic were. So I think it's going to be a very good main event, and I think it'll probably be over pretty quickly. But Hill's got a really nice measurables advantage, like you mentioned. 2 inches taller, 3 inches of reach. He's a southpaw, and he's 7 years younger than Thiago. So just everywhere, Jamal is just better in the measurables. And obviously, it's Santos who has the experience advantage with 20 more pro fights, over 200 more minutes in the pro cage, almost 7 more years as a pro fighter, 16 more fights at the UFC level, and 170 more minutes in the UFC cage. So it's a huge advantage and experience for Santos, almost as huge as the measurables advantage for Hill. For the finish stats and the durability, the advantage goes to Santos. Santos has both the better finish rates overall as a pro, 73% for Santos, 55% for Hill. And at the UFC level, as Santos is finishing 79% of his 14 UFC wins inside the distance, and for Hill, it's 67% of those 6 wins. Hill has been finished in his only pro loss when he dislocated his elbow against Paul Craig, and Santos has been finished in 5 of 9 UFC losses and in 6 of 10 pro losses. He's been knocked out 3 times, and he's been subbed 3 times. When it comes to the striking, the advantage goes to Hill here. Hill is pretty much a pure striker thus far at the UFC level because over 90% of his fights take place standing, and he's never attempted a takedown in 7 UFC fights and over 40 minutes in the cage. Hill has a crazy striking differential at 3.35 compared to Santos, which is very good as well at 1.47. Hill is more accurate, 51% to 48%, and he's got better power numbers. 1.48 knockdowns per 15 minutes for Jamahal Hill and 0.99 knockdowns per 15 minutes for Thiago Santos. Hill has never been knocked down in the UFC, while Santos has only been dropped 3 times in 23 UFC fights, averaging out to 0.21 knockdowns allowed per 15. Santos has the better striking defense, 55.5% for Santos, not bad. 46% for Jamahal Hill, needs a lot of work. The grappling advantage, got to give it to Santos. Neither guy grapples much at all. The last time Santos used his grappling to win minutes was against Kevin Holland in 2018. This was Holland's debut in the UFC. Santos got 3 takedowns and 577 seconds of control time. The most time he ever got in control time, other than that, in 23 fights was 199 seconds against Anthony Smith, who gives up a ton of control time. So other than the Holland fight, he's never gotten more than 1 takedown in any UFC fight. Like I said, that's 22 other fights besides the Holland fight. So even though Santos is more likely to offensively grapple here, the likelihood that he will do so with any success or commitment is unlikely. And the strength of schedule advantage has to go to Santos. Santos has fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio and more experienced UFC competition. This is a step up for Hill for sure. But Hill has a significant measurables advantage. He's got a good striking advantage, while Santos has the experience, finish stats, durability, strength of schedule, and slight grappling edge here. So even though Jamahal Hill is a big favorite, It's Santos who has a lot of, advantages here: experience, finish ratios, durability, strength of schedule. He's the more likely guy to offensively wrestle and win minutes there. So it's an interesting fight, but these guys are at two very different places in their career right now. And the last three fights for Thiago Santos kind of looks like he's out there to collect a check and stay safe, while Jamahal Hill is out there trying to hurt people, trying to knock people out, putting volume on his opponents, and throwing some nasty hands and looking really, really good and confident doing it. So it looks like this is going to be a stepping stone for Jamahal Hill on the way up to the 205-pound belt. I think he should be able to handle this, but he's got to be careful, man. Thiago Santos can land big counter shots. He's still got a ton of power, landing a knockdown on 1.68% of the significant strikes that he's landed at this level. That would be about, I think, 14 knockdowns in 23 fights. So you got to be careful about Santos's power. And we even saw him drop Magomed Ankalaev in his last fight when Ankalaev rushed in. So my first thought was just a max bet Jamahal Hill here. I thought, he's going to go out there and just murder this dude. But Thiago Santos is the real deal. But 38 years old, 2 reconstructed knees. How many more good fights does Santos have left in him? You got to believe that Jamahal Hill's going to destroy this dude.
Yep, and I think a lot of people are thinking the same way, especially taking a look at the line. We see that Hill opened at minus 250. He is now minus 265. Santos opening up plus 210 and currently plus 225. A ton of wide lines on this card. We have Olazaych minus 700, Mckenny minus 1,000, even like Josh Coulon minus 225. Cory Mckenna minus 237, Sakai minus 210. Just a lot of wide lines on this card, Weezy.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun card. I mean, but I think the money lines are a little bit difficult to deal with because so many of them are blown out. I'm going to be looking to try to take advantage of some inefficiencies in the pricing of the time props, which is going to make tomorrow night's probability that much more important once we start to see these props drop.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we did it. We went through all 12 fights. Weezy, let the people know where they can find you and what you have going on throughout the week for some content.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy, every Tuesday night for Just the Tip. Break down all the fights from a statistical and tape study perspective. Finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. I'll be going live this Wednesday night for Ask Weezy on my channel as well. You can find me on the MMA Engine YouTube channel for Probability every Monday night with DFS by the Numbers. And you can find me right here on Pub Sports Radio every Sunday for Stat Diggers, every Wednesday for the DFS show with Brady, with Gordo Gambles, and with Monk, and every Saturday for the watch along. We had fun watching the fights yesterday, cashing some tickets with Boston Nick and the boys. But yeah, the only thing left to do, you guys, stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 59. Let's get it.
Let's go. Yeah, thank you all for hanging out tonight with us on a Sunday. Not the best card in the world, but I do think this card should deliver. Lots of fun fights. Looking forward to it. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. Tomorrow, I'll be getting out my Dana White's Contender Series video and also going live with Lou Betcha on the MMA Engine. Around 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to talk about our bets for the Contender Series. And then after the Diamond Podcast, Probability with Weezy, I'm hoping the props should be out by then. I'd be shocked if they weren't. And then, yeah, just look out for other content throughout the week. Make sure you do subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Subscribe to the MMA Engine. And, yeah, guys, thanks again for hanging out. Do appreciate all the support. Leave a like. Subscribe, all the good stuff. Best of luck for UFC Vegas 59. See you guys later.